Here we have the NZXT Switch 810 computer case. This is the one I had chosen to do after several months of research on the chassis I wanted for my next computer build here. I do have a Thermaltake Acer, however you pronounce it, 6. That is from a few years ago, just some of the features and wire management and just the painting and all that stuff. It's a little outdated. And one of the things I liked especially about this case was the large acrylic side panel there. Just nice if you're going to have some nice hardware in there. It's nice to be able to see it rather than having a mesh side where you really can't see it all that great unless you take the side off. But anyways, this is a full tower case. It would be NZXT's second to their best. They do have a Phantom one above this, but I actually prefer this one over the higher end Phantom. First, I suppose we can start with the front. And on here we have 4 5¼ inch external drive base. And the plastic on the top one. Actually, that's not a drive bay, that is actually a cover here. You'll find an SD card reader. I get her. Oh, a little tricky. There we go. And you'll find USB 2, USB 3.0, and your microphone input as well as your headphones output. And you'll find the reset switch inside of there with a nice cover to cover it up so you don't get all kinds of dust and such in there as well. And the power button is kind of hidden way up on top right here. Kind of like indented in the plastic molding here. Right here is a LED button. What that does is there's actually 2 LEDs on the back side by the inputs and outputs that will light up the area for you if you're trying to plug in cables in the dark and you can't see what you're doing. It just makes a convenient light for you back there. And I see the top one here has a little dummy door here, so if you put a DVD burner or Blu-ray burner or whatever optical drive you choose, it won't even matter technically which color it is because you won't even see the front of it. This little guy will drop out with it. And then you got your 2 empty bays here, and what this one is, it is a hot swap bay. Squeeze the sides together. Must be locked in there or something, but anyways. Down here we have a nice vent area here. And there's actually, it clicks up on top and it falls right down like that. And in here you have a dust filter that you can clean out. It is screwed in, as you can see, some Phillips head screws. You can just remove that and clean it out if you wish after a while. It is super easy to remove. Then we have a 140mm fan in there, and there's also space for an additional 140, or you can use 120s if you prefer. I can figure this out here. This is my first time with this case, so I am not 100% sure myself. There we go. That's easy. It seems a little tricky to get both sides of this to release, but there we go. Just takes some practice. Not too bad. And down here on the front, you push on this and you'll have a dust filter here as well. This is a nice long one that you can clean out very easily and just push her back in and it will click into place. And the side panel here, not much there. Just one solid side panel, and there is some ventilation along the bottom so some air can be sucked in through the bottom. And back to the back side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 expansion slots versus your standard 7 you will find on many cases. And you'll also find a 140mm fan pre-installed, which can also accept a 120. And the cool thing about this, you'll find your Phillips head screws here, and you can actually loosen them, and this fan will slide up and down these these are notches here, so you can actually slide the fan up and down. Just depending on where your cooler and stuff on the inside lines up, you can move that fan to give it the best airflow as possible. It's kind of a neat feature rather than being fixed in just one position. And you have 4 water cooling grommets here. I don't see why you would need them, as there's plenty of room inside for your radiators and such, but they're there. And up here is one of the LEDs, and there's also an LED here that lights up the back for you when you push that button. I obviously don't have any power, so I cannot use it at the moment. And your power supply cutout down here, which will support power supply mounting either upside or reverse flipped around. And on the side here we have thumb screw on the top and on the bottom that must be removed. And the middle one, you just loosen it up a tad, push it down, and you'll be able to pull the panel out. And the panels are actually pretty tight on there. They're not flimsy, they don't just fall right off. They do take some force, so it is a nice tight fit. And that panel itself is pretty strong, especially considering most of it is just an acrylic panel. It does have some strength and definitely some weight to it. Just love the big open window. And inside here you'll find all your internal headers, are the cables for the headers here, wrapped up in a little bag. You just take that off. And everything is nice and black. No multicolored cables here except for the very end. The sleeving does not go to the very end, but it is closed with about a ½ inch away or so. But it is nice that they're all black, and the inside is all black as well. And down on the bottom here you will find rubber mounts here for your power supply. For your standard power supply, it's about 6.3 inches in length. That will just sit on these guys here, the first 4. If you have an extended power supply for something larger, like a 1200 watt or something like that, it can extend out to the second set of feet here, so it is still sitting on the feet, so it's not hanging over, just to absorb vibration. And I missed this part. There's a fan on the side, same as the front. Push it, click, pulls right out, easy cleaning as well, not quite as big as the front one. That one is directly under your power supply, so that way your power supply is sucking in nice clean air and not blowing it all over inside your case. And on the back here, there's a 140mm fan, black and white, which I like. The covers here for your expansion slots. One thing that's nice about these, they're all screwed in with a thumb screw, so they can be removed. And let's say in the future you have a device and you no longer want it there, you can always put the cover back, rather than like the old school tabs where you break off and there you go, you're screwed. Once you get it off, you can't get it back on again. And on the very top here, whoop, that's not on tight, you'll find another 140mm fan as well. That will be removed in my case because I'll be putting a dual 120 radiator up on the top for my CPU cooling, and I can remove that to somewhere else in the case. But while the top is off here, you have support for a triple fan radiator, either a 360 or a 420mm radiator. You have spacing for both. And there's plenty of room there, some space. I mean, there's, I'd say, a good 1.5 inches of space up here. Plus between that and the top of your motherboard, you got a couple inches or so there too. Not sure on the exact dimensions, but obviously everything is in the manual. You can find it online. And that top panel slides in on one end. And then the back side locks down like that. Push it again, pulls right up. Super easy to take off and remove. And there's also a lever here that you can pull, which opens up all these vents for a maximum airflow, but it will make more noise obviously, and you can close them back up as well for a silent computer, but then you won't get quite as great of airflow. But at the same time, there are some vents along the side here, and there is a gap, so air can still actually flow in and out through there, it looks like. One neat feature I really like about this case is over here we have another pre-installed 140mm black and white fan. This can actually angle, so you can angle the fans however you prefer to get your best airflow, being a graphics card or large heatsink or memory or MOSFETs, whatever you need to cool with it. And there's also one below it as well. There's no fan pre-installed there, but you can add a fan and it moves just as well. I may remove, when I remove this fan, maybe I'll put it there, or I may put it in the very front, we'll see. Another thing is for that hot swap bay, you will find your SATA connection as well as a Molex power connector, which just gives that the data connection as well as its power for that hot swap bay. And on the very bottom here we have mounting holes. It appears to be for 120 or 140mm fan as well. And that front filter comes out to about right here, so that fan would be filtered as well. And obviously on the very back we have a large, very large CPU cutout area, so you don't have to remove the motherboard to install them large aftermarket heat sinks. And we have plenty of grommets, and they are very large, I must say. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 grommets. And they actually feel pretty rugged. I mean, they got some strength to them. They don't just fall right off. I know some cases, like with the grommets, you run the wires through and the grommets just fall right off. These actually feel to be pretty strong, and they're pretty good. Feel like some great material. We have our toolless bays here for our 5 1/4 inch, and then here we have these bays. These are hard drive bays, 4 hard drives per each, I believe, or it's 3. I can't remember, either 3 or 4, so either a total of 6 or 8. And what you can do is get these thumb screws out of here. Hold them in place. If I can get it. I got some muscles. I don't appear to have any muscle. I have loosened it with a screwdriver. There we go. And the only problem is that fan is connected. It may be plugged in on the back side. So I don't think it's going to come out. Yeah, the fan has to be connected disconnected from the back side first, so I will get to that. And once again, top thumb screw, bottom thumb screw, loosen up, down, tight fit. And here we are on the back side, and here we see all the wires are already conveniently kind of ran through and tied up and off the standoffs here, so they're not just all a mess back here. That's kind of nice. And we have our toolless drive mounting, at least if it's a 3.5 inch drive. These are actually rubberized. They can be removed. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're just, the base of it's rubber and it just kind of slides into the little slot here to absorb any vibration for your mechanical drives. Get back in there. There we go. And you just kind of bend the sides out, put your drive in there, and there you go. And then just push. Push back in there like that. And see down here we have our box of hardware. they give you a 4 or 8 pin EPS 12 volt connector here, so in case you need an extension. I think it's about 10 inches in length. 6 or so little zip ties, not very big, pretty small. And it looks like a generous amount of screws. Looks like there's several bags inside of there. And yes, it looks like there are 6 3.5 inches here. And in regards to that fan, pull this drive out, I can see I can push on it somewhat. But that wire is tied up into here and I'd have to cut it. So I cannot remove it at this time, and I'd rather not cut it for now. And here we have a fan, I call it fan head or whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 3-pin fan headers, which is powered by a single Molex. So just plugging a single Molex connector from your power supply, you could power all 7 of them fans right off the bat. Makes it very convenient. And there looks to be a decent amount of room on the side here. I believe it is 23 millimeters of space in between the back of the motherboard tray and the side panel. I think it's about 23 millimeters, so slightly under 1 inch. I think I see why this one came out before. The hot swap bay. Just taking a guess here as to why that one came out. There we go. You can either mount a 2.5 or 3.5 inch drive in there as well, and they actually label them 2.5 inch hole, 3.5 inch hole. So that is not toolless, but I mean it ain't that big of a deal. Just throw a couple screws in there. Also mounts on the side. I do see it is missing some paint, but that's going to happen sliding in and out, in and out, in and out. And you probably can't see it, but right in there you will find a SATA power and the data connection. And after you mount your drive in here, it slides in there, and there you go. You got your hotspot bay. Cover back on, and there you go. But that should about cover it for the NZXT Switch 810. And thanks for watching.